What would you do if you were trapped in your home by a group of U.S. Marshals? Find out what one guy did years ago. Welcome to Purgatory. What's going on, freaks and freakettes? I'm Spike.
And I'm mad.
Thanks so much for tuning in again. Check us out on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe, Purgatory Podcast in YouTube. Check us out on the Anchor app, anchor.fm, to check out the pledge tiers if you want to support the show monthly. Also, be sure to hit up our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's all Purgatory Podcast. Drop us an email, officialpurgatorypodcast@gmail.com, to get in touch with us. Let us know what you think, because we'd love to hear from our listeners. Getting all that out of the way, today we are joined by a very interesting guest. He's kind of an unofficial expert on the Ruby Ridge standoff in Idaho. We've been wanting to get this guy on for a while, and now it's finally happening. So please welcome Mr. Hugo Strange. How's it going today, buddy?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on the show. And I don't know if I would call myself an expert, but thank you for calling me an expert.
So what I really want to know is, what was it like to fight Batman?
Oh, I hate that dude.
Oh, yeah? Why do people call him, like, the Bat? And then some people call him the Batman, and some people just call him Batman.
You know, really, he's just a vigilante. Nothing more than that.
There you go. He's a little bitch. You heard it here first. Except for Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton's Batman was the shit. But, Madman, what are you doing today, buddy?
Nothing much, man. I got a guy coming by to pick up that car I sold.
Hell yeah. Make any money on it?
Yeah, making a good 300.
That's not bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's my brother's car, so he was like, all right, I want 500. If you sell it for any more, you can keep the rest.
Wait, what car were you selling?
Oh, well, it was a 2009 Ford Fusion, but the transmission's fucked, and it needs a new battery.
Well,
I thought about
a big problem there.
Yeah, I thought about like buying it off him and like fixing it myself, but I just don't have the time or room right now, because like that's like a good like.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of money. Yeah, it's basically totaled.
Mm-hmm.
The best car to buy used, especially if you're buying like from a guy and not a dealership, is a mechanic's wife's car. Because like the mechanic's car is he's just gonna be ripping into it and fucking around with it, you know. But the mechanic's wife's car, there you go. That's the one you want.
Very specific.
Dude, I have a story. Okay.
All right.
Well, you know how last podcast I told the story about me falling down the hill?
Yes. With your pants down.
Yeah, and I have. Yeah, I woke up this morning. It was starting to bother me at work, and then like I got home and I was changing, and I saw my legs are covered in poison ivy. I didn't even realize it. But they say that you can wash it off if you take a shower and like scrub the oil off immediately. But I was drunk, so I just kind of like fell into a couch and slept there.
Nice.
So that the oil, and I didn't shower until like the afternoon of the next day. So that oil was on me for at least 24 hours. So I didn't
have that shit all over the couch now.
Oh, it's my parents' couch.
So not your problem, basically.
Yeah. So I woke up early this morning, walked out. I'm like, I'm smelling a little something weird. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, God.
And I walk out into my living room, and there is more dog shit than I have ever seen at any point in time ever. My dog like had some kind of exorcism and shit everywhere. And it was like runny shit, you know, you can't, not the kind you can just pick up. So I'm like, I just stand there for a couple of minutes hoping it just disappears, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So I get some like Dawn and vinegar solution and a toilet brush, and I'm fucking out there scrubbing the floor, just mad as shit. You ever clean something? Yeah, it was on my carpet. And my wife and I have been talking about getting new carpets, and I was just thinking, like, what if we had gotten a new carpet?
Let's just wrap this shit up now.
Yeah.
Dude.
But I was like, I'm gonna skin a dog today. Like, I was so mad. Oh man. Whoa. You ever be cleaning? Yeah, but be cleaning. Have you ever been cleaning something and gotten angrier as you were doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those. Like, I was so mad. So that was my morning. I always have interesting mornings.
That was today?
Oh, yeah. That was like a couple hours ago.
But what are you feeding that dog, man?
Well, I cheaped out and I got cheap food this time. I usually feed Imes, which is like kind of middle of the road, kind of lower upper tier, I guess. Lower upper, whatever. But then I cheaped out and got cheap food this time. So I'm thinking her stomach just didn't take it.
Well, good thing you're not feeding your dog Alpo every day. Otherwise, they would have that kind of shit all the time.
Yeah, that's true. And didn't Alpo get caught like putting dogs in it?
What?
I think Alpo got caught like buying dogs from shelters, like euthanized dogs.
Oh, Christ.
And then putting them in the dog food.
No way.
I'm pretty sure that that's a thing. I know that they were putting horses in it. But, you know.
But fuck horses.
Yeah, we've been over this.
Yeah,
fuck
we don't like horses on the show.
All right.
Overrated animal.
Yeah. Let's get into this, man. So, we're here to talk about the Ruby Ridge standoff today. And I didn't really know much about this. I just had kind of seen it on TV once or twice. But why don't you tell us what happened? Like, why did this start? Like, tell us the genesis of this thing.
Well, so basically, Randy Weaver, man who sold his property and moved his family onto the top of a mountain in Idaho, was on the U.S. Marshals, agenda because he had links to the Aryan Nation, which had a compound not too far away from his home. And I mean, this guy was very isolated. His family, they all, like, when I say they lived on the top of a mountain, they lived on the top of a mountain, basically.
So he's like a white separatist guy, like a I want to be by myself and start my own little compound commune thing.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I don't know as much about the white nationalist thing. According to the Weaver family, he was, including his family in the Aryan Nation meetings because he wanted to have some sort of community, even though that he clearly was isolating his family from the rest of the world. So, yeah, I mean, they kind of distanced themselves from the Aryan Nation, at least in interviews later on. But yeah, that's initially why he was on the radar of the U.S. Marshals.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then after that, basically, there was an informant that allegedly Weaver sold a sawed-off shotgun to, and that created the charges that led to this whole clusterfuck, basically.
Okay. And for those of you that don't know, altering a shotgun like that, shortening the barrel of a shotgun, is illegal anywhere in the country. So cops saw him do this, he hit the radar, and then what happened?
Well, so he was served a court hearing, and there's some deliberation on, the actual court date he was given was incorrect. It was way earlier than it should have been. Randy Weaver's somebody who, the reason he moved to Idaho in the first place to live, isolated, was because basically he just didn't trust government. And so this kind of created that whole issue where, he got served the court date and then he didn't show up for that date. His lawyer was trying to get a hold of him, but he couldn't. And the judge decided to extend his date back to where it should have been. But Randy still did not show up. So that created this situation where the U.S. Marshals were, staking out on his property and, surveying the area around his compound.
That's so weird because usually people miss a court date, they just issue a warrant. They don't like mobilize all the marshals onto them.
Yeah.
Especially if this guy didn't have any kind of violent past. I mean, I know he was with the Aryan Nation or whatever, so he's probably a racist, but he doesn't sound like he was a murderer or anything.
No, he didn't have any charges like that, but the fact that he was, associated with the Aryan Nation at the time, the U.S. Marshal Service, that already made him a threat, in eyes of the government. And when he sold that, allegedly sold that sawed-off shotgun to a U.S. Marshal informant, then that was the problem.
Oh, geez. Okay, so he missed his court date, and instead of just saying we're going to issue a warrant and pick this guy up when he runs a red light, they decide to mobilize the marshals on this guy's compound, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Well, they send people out there to survey. They set up cameras on his property. I mean, even if you look online, you can still see the surveillance, like pictures. I mean, famously of Vicky Weaver out on the compound. But yeah.
How many of them are there? You said he moved his family, so it's him and his wife, and then how many kids?
He had him and his wife, and then he had Samuel. I can't remember his daughter's name, and then they had a little baby. And also a family friend, Kevin Harris, was also on the compound with them at this time.
Jeez. So this guy's kind of, I mean, he broke the law selling the shotgun, but he's not really actively hurting anybody from what we can tell.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm on one side or the other with this. I'm just trying to look at the facts objectively. You know?
Yeah, and I guess I kind of want to preface this with, like, I feel like this is kind of a case that most people don't talk about. They don't really think about. But, the people who do talk about it tend to be white nationalist people who, distrust government. And I'm not trying to, stoke the flames or anything by talking about this. I'm not trying to justify any, distrust or anything like that. Because, the Oklahoma bomber used this and the Waco siege as a reason to why he blew up that government building.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I didn't even know that this guy had white nationalist ties. I just thought this was an interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, he was associated with the Aryan Nation. I think there's some deliberation as to how involved he really was. The Weaver, like I said, the Weaver family kind of justified it as a way of, they were in the middle of fucking nowhere. So, and this compound was, within, driving distance of them. So that was kind of a way for their family to have some kind of community. And I guess, from as somebody, has a kid, I wouldn't want him to be isolated 24/7. You know what I mean? So yeah. I understand wanting a community, but obviously that did not really work out for this family.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have been on the radar in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was gonna say, so like when you guys say Aryan, you guys obviously mean like Nazis, right?
Well, kind of.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like what I want to get clear. Like, what does the Aryan really mean?
From what I understand that to mean is like with different gangs, like the Aryan Brotherhood and stuff. They kind of are used in the same breath as Nazis, in that the Nazis talked about this perfect race of Aryans,
Yeah.
But I don't think, again, I'm talking completely out of my ass here.
Yeah.
I don't think that most of these gangs are like genocide. I don't think that they want genocide. You know what I mean? I believe that most of them tend to be white separatists, meaning they just want to go and live in a white community.
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying that's what I believe to be the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the vast majority of these people, that is true. I mean, labeling them as neo-Nazis is, I can see how somebody could easily do that because, it's, especially nowadays, it's not very correct to, be, support segregation and all of that. But
we're kind of getting derailed and in the weeds here because we're covering our ass and saying like we're not Nazis, we're not white nationalists. We just thought this was an interesting topic,
Yeah, exactly.
So we're trying to be as PC as we can and still talk about this, which I think is an interesting thing.
I don't think it has anything to do with being politically correct. It's just, anybody naturally is going to want to, distance themselves from white nationalists. I mean, generally.
Yeah, for sure. So they've got these people on this compound and they just want to live. I'm guessing they just kind of want to live away from the government. And so now all of a sudden the government's there. So there's this intrinsic distrust of the government, this intrinsic fear. They're obviously armed. And I'm guessing the marshals know that. And the marshals aren't fucking around. The marshals are bad mofos. And I mean, they can arrest somebody in Guam or Puerto Rico. They have no jurisdiction. They can go anywhere. So there's a bunch of marshals there, the highest level of training. And I mean, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to get him and detain him? Like, what's to what end here?
I mean, as far as I can understand, they're trying to find a way that they can get him off of the compound and capture him. I believe the reason they set up the surveillance cameras was to, kind of have a way to predict his movements in a way that they can isolate him from his family so they can arrest him. But clearly this is going beyond what is normal for a missed court hearing.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's where initially the U.S. Marshal Service and just the local government there was dropping the ball. Is because since this man had ties with the Aryan Nation, they were already treating him different than any other, alleged criminal.
Right.
So, I mean, how often do you hear about somebody getting, surveillance cameras set up around their property because they missed a court date? They just have a warrant out for their arrest, and whenever they get, pulled over, they get arrested and pulled in. But clearly they went out of their way to go stake this guy out. So, yeah, it's a little different than normal for sure.
I guess one thing we haven't really asked you is how did you get so interested in this topic? Because I know before I shared the story of me emailing the Heaven's Gate cult for a high school project, and then so that kind of got me into the kind of topics of cults I think are pretty interesting. So how did you get into this?
Well, that's funny you say that because I've also done quite a bit of research on Heaven's Gate and Jonestown and those kinds of things. I don't know. It's just one of those things you just kind of rabbit hole down into. It's It's not that I mean, I think everybody has a healthy distrust of government one way or another.
Yeah.
But so that that might have been one of the motivating factors for me. But I don't know. It's just this is something I came to on my radar, and I researched it, and I thought it was interesting because I don't feel like it's something people talk about a lot, and people compare it to this situation to the Waco siege, and there's a lot of parallels there. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something I found interesting, and I think it's worthy of talking about because not a lot of people even really know what happened there.
Yeah. Right. I mean, before you, I know you mentioned it before, but I had only heard about this once before, I think in sociology class. But yeah, I for some reason I've never heard about this other than that, which I think is kind of interesting.
Well, it's a kind of a landmark as far as criminal justice and rules of engagement goes as far as suspected criminals go.
I know that they use this as a training tool now with these kind of responders, like these, I don't know what you would even call a team that handles this kind of thing, but I know that they use this as okay, this is what happened, this is where they went wrong. They use this as a training tool. Yeah,
they'll look at this and see how the rules of engagement were not proper for the situation. They'll look at at reasons why somebody is specifically targeted. There's a lot of things that the criminal justice system can learn from Ruby Ridge.
Yeah, for sure. So how long were they surveying before they made a move on this compound?
I don't know exactly how long, but I can tell you that the court date that he missed was months before. I believe it was he was supposed to be in court in late February, and the actual incident happened in August. So they were staking him out for quite a while before the actual incident occurred.
Okay, so what was the first Domino? Like, didn't they kill his dog or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to next.
Okay, so the first domino is that they had 3 U.S. Marshals personally surveying the property, and they were all outfitted in, camo, and camo, military fatigues. They all had, rifles, and I think one of them might have had a submachine gun.
Did they tell this guy they were going to come to his house, or did they just show up?
They had, before this, they had a couple of incidents where actually Weaver was arrested once before because U.S. Marshals pretended to be a motorist in trouble.
Oh, yeah?
So they had their car pulled over on the side of the road, and Weaver came and tried to help them out. And
well, how dare you help me change a tire? I'm gonna arrest you.
Well, yeah. But if you think about it, that's the way they should have arrested him in the first place,
To avoid what happened, yeah.
Yeah. So 3 guys in military fatigues were staking out his house with, M16 rifles, and I think one of them had a submachine gun, like I said, and one of them had the smart idea to throw a rock against the side of the house to see if the family would notice. That's, particularly the dog. And the dog obviously heard it, and the dog, started freaking out, so they let the dog out. And being on the top of a mountain in Idaho, they were relying on, hunting for a good part of their food.
Mm-hmm.
So the dog ran out of the house. They thought it could have been a, game animal like a deer or something like that,
Deers are known to throw rocks at houses.
Well,
deer.
I mean,
it's already
just put yourself
plural.
in this position. Like if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
on the top of a mountain, you don't.
Yeah, I know. I'm just giving you shit.
Yeah, you don't expect somebody to be throwing a rock on the side of your house.
Yeah.
So that could have been anything in their eyes. So the dog goes running after whatever it is. So the Weaver son, Samuel, and Kevin Harris go chasing after the dog. They're both armed, because they think they're chasing an animal.
Mm-hmm.
So the marshals are running back to where they think is they kind of have their station there at what's called the Y. I guess it's like a fork in the landscape there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get there. The dog catches up with them. The marshals are there. The dog's still running after them, and one of the marshals shoots and kills the dog. Then right after that, Samuel comes out of the brush, and this is all after this kind of speculation and he said, she said kind of thing. Allegedly, Samuel opens fire on the officers after the dog is killed, and they return fire on him. Kevin Harris returns fire and kills one of the marshals.
Wow.
So we got a gunfight in the woods in Idaho, and nobody can really see anything, or nobody knows who is who, or one side thinks one thing, the other side thinks another.
U.S. Marshal is killed. Samuel Weaver tries to retreat. He's shot in, I believe, the elbow, and then in the back, and so he drops and he's dead. 14.
He didn't get back to the house?
No.
Okay.
14-year-old kid. I mean, he just drops dead right there.
Jeez. Holy shit.
Yeah. So clearly at this point, it's a fucking big old mess.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Samuel should have started firing on the marshals. The marshals apparently did call out that they were marshals and to freeze where they were. But when you think about it in the position of somebody who's been isolated on top of a mountain, and this is a 14-year-old kid we're talking about.
And then they just say, let's throw a rock at their house and scare the shit out of them.
That's the main.
That was the first mistake, dude. That's so unprofessional.
I wouldn't say that was the first mistake, but that created this whole blunder of the shootout.
Yeah, what I mean by first mistake is I could see how they could fight every other angle, but that it's like where is that in the book? You know what I mean?
Don't answer that yet, because we're gonna go into a quick break and answer that on the other side. How's it going, everybody? This is Spike from the Purgatory Podcast. When Matt and I decided to start this podcast, neither one of us knew kind of where to start or how to distribute it to different platforms, and that's when we came across the Anchor app. Now, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast because they give you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your computer or your phone. Different creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great, and this was the kicker for me. They'll distribute your podcast with no minimum listenership to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and several more. Now, there's really only one more thing left for you to do if you're looking to start a podcast, and that's get out your phone, open your laptop, download the Anchor app, and go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, gentlemen, welcome back from the break. You still there? Good. I'm glad. Welcome back from the break, freaks and freakettes. We're sitting here with my man, Hugo Strange, and my co-host, the Madman, talking about Ruby Ridge. And we're going to get right back into it, jumping right back into it. So what was the question you just asked?
No, what I was saying is like how like everything else could be like argued and like debated, but I feel like the whole throwing a rock on the side of the house is very unprofessional on their side.
Right. So Kevin goes back to the house, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, Kevin retreats back to the house. They later come back for Samuel's body. And so they bring Samuel's body back to the house. And the whole time the U.S. Marshal Service is obviously calling this in because they have a officer who's dead.
Both sides are dug in now because both sides have a dead person.
Yeah, exactly.
So if there was any hope of getting this guy to surrender, they're gone now.
Yeah, pretty much without using any more kind of force.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I can't even imagine that. Of course, I would assume that the marshals would have just come to my front door and knocked. I mean, like, hey, I don't want to kill your kid, so come with me.
Well, they didn't want to do that because at the time they viewed, Randy Weaver as a threat. So I think some of the people in the FBI later questioned why they didn't just do that. This guy was kind of being painted as somebody he really wasn't. Yeah, he's somebody who distrusted government, but he also didn't have any other kind of violent arms charges against him.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that would have been the better option for them looking back. But at the time, they saw him as somebody who was associated with the Aryan Nation and that he had sold an illegally modified weapon. So they viewed him as a threat and didn't think that was worth the risk of sending a marshal to go arrest him at his house.
Oh, man. So, yeah, this was surely the best alternative, right? So then that's kind of Act 1. And it doesn't stop there because they go get Samuel's body and they come back. And then the siege continues, right?
Yeah, so they bring Samuel's body back. They put it in, like, I believe, a shed near the house. The FBI at this point is involved. The FBI calls in their hostage rescue teams, SWAT. And this is a big part of this whole mess. Is the rules of engagement were set to basically shoot any armed man on sight, which a lot of the SWAT members disagreed with because that's not what their normal protocol is.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting before you announce yourself as an FBI agent and give them a chance to surrender.
Wow. Holy shit. That's insane.
Yeah, that's wild.
And these are American citizens. Holy shit. Constitutional rights be damned, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of the issue had to do with the governor of Idaho. The governor of Idaho even issued a state of emergency because of this, because a U.S. Marshal was killed. If the Marshal wasn't killed, it could have been a completely different story as far as like the rules of engagement went on that compound.
For sure. So they get the kid's body up to the shed. They got shoot on sight orders. And then what does the family do? Do they hunker back down in their house?
Yeah, they're hunkered back down in their house. And Randy Weaver went to visit his son's body in the shed or the other, structure they had on the compound. And he went and saw his son, and as he was walking back to his house, a hostage rescue team sniper opened fire on him, and they shot him, but the shot went through Randy into the front door of the house and killed his wife.
Holy shit.
Yeah, who at the time was holding her 10-month-old baby.
No.
Did it kill the baby too?
No, the baby survived.
Holy shit,
Fortunately.
man.
Like to this day, like it's like out there.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. And this happened in 92. So that kid is, I mean, 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Holy shit. I just can't even imagine that. Getting shot, flopping down on your porch, opening the door, and there's your wife.
Yeah.
With the baby on her chest. Holy fuck.
Yeah, with their two other kid, or I'm not sorry, their other kid in the house and their family friend. So it's a mess. So the FBI at that point didn't realize that they even had killed Vicky, but clearly that hostage rescue sniper shouldn't have shot near the front door.
And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there some weird shit with the sniper? Like, isn't there, like, some weird story behind him? Like, didn't he have something to do with Waco or something like that?
Yeah, so after this incident, he was also stationed at the Waco siege as a sniper there as well, which, a lot of people look at that and they're like, what the fuck?
What the fuck? Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Same guy.
Same exact guy.
After he had done this
That's crazy, dude. That's almost like in, like, movies when they're like, oh, call in our secret weapon, you know?
What the fuck? What the hell are you talking about?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of weird that's the same guy. Well, I don't mean like they didn't call him in, you know what I mean? But it's weird that that guy was in both occasions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
he's probably got very specific training that is probably expensive to train another person like that. He's on one level he's a valuable asset. He's got all this training, but on another level, I mean, he must have gone through whatever court documentation and paperwork that they have to do after something like this, and some kind of board of evaluators found him to be fit for duty, and then he just went right back to duty. And we obviously don't have all those documents in front of us, but on the surface it seems like, why the hell was this guy given a rifle again?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know. So that can't be the end of the story. Like, they kill Vicky and then it's just over. Like, I feel like the shit runs deeper now, and like, what's the next step after that?
Well, at this point, the Weaver family is cowering inside of their home there, and they're not going to be coming out because at that point it just seems like they're going to open fire on anybody. So they try and send some civilian negotiators in there to get them out, which at that time they sent in the guy named Bo Greitz, who was also... So Randy Weaver, I believe, was a Green Beret. Or he at least had involvement in the, Marine Corps. And so did Bo Greitz. So they sent him in to talk to Weaver. And he talks to Weaver, and Weaver informs Greitz that Vicky's dead. They killed his wife. And
he's all fucked up nursing his wound.
Yeah, and I believe Kevin Harris is definitely also wounded.
Holy shit.
You got to consider the fact that this is already somebody who had a severe distrust of government in the first place. So at this point, he feels like the government's just coming to kill him and his kids and his wife and everybody.
I mean, it'd be hard not to feel that way after this whole thing.
If you already feel like you're like under a microscope, and then this happens, like in my head, I would think, okay, they're gonna kill me. You know what I mean? Like the only way I'm getting out of here is they're gonna kill me, so I might as well like fight my way out. You know what I mean? I feel like that would be like the mind state that I would be in.
Well, when he was holed up in there, that he was considering his options and probably seeing that he had none.
Exactly.
And then your only option at that's like, I'm gonna shoot my way out of here or something like that. That had to have gone through his head.
Because like, just think about it. They killed people that are just outside. You know what I mean? Like doing nothing. Like that. Like that's just crazy. So you would think like, okay, they're just gonna try to kill me. Like the second I walk out of here, they're gonna try to shoot me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were saying earlier, is there a movie out on this kind of like subject that you would know of?
I don't know about a movie, but there are multiple documentaries. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That
No, yeah, I was
seems
just
so
wondering.
weird that they haven't taken this and made it like based on true story type thing.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. Like, I haven't heard of this like before this, except like once.
Well,
Like,
I haven't really.
it's very like hush hush kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, they
I haven't
did.
really seen marshals in anything other than like Far Cry 5. Like it doesn't seem like they talk about marshals very often.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I mean, it's, people compare this and the Waco siege to kind of, there are a lot of parallels. People talk about the Waco siege a lot more than they do this, but this kind of was the precursor for what happened at Waco. It's the same problem as far as rules of engagement goes and how somebody should be arrested. People talk about Waco. There's, movies out about it and everything, but a lot of people kind of forgotten about this.
Yeah. So they send Green Beret guy in to talk to the other Green Beret guy, and I mean, what happens there? Do they negotiate some kind of surrender?
Yeah, that's the initial intention of sending Bo Greitz up there is to talk Weaver down into coming out of the compound and, letting them know that, he can surrender peacefully still. However, at that point, the FBI had no idea that Vicky Weaver was dead. And so Bo Greitz learns this when he talks to Weaver, and he comes back out and informs him of that, and basically told him they fucked up.
Jeez.
I don't know if Bo Greitz was a Green Beret or not, but he was in the Special Forces.
Oh, okay.
They shared a bond because they both served in some kind of Special Forces capacity.
And why did they send this guy in particular? Was he like did they just go, where's the nearest Special Forces veteran? Like,
I think at that point, Bo Greitz was a pretty well-known guy. And, even up until now, he's involved in politics.
Should have got Jesse Ventura. That would have been the way to go.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that was a good idea in the part of the FBI, is sending a civilian up there to talk to him instead of somebody associated with the FBI, which is what Weaver distrusted the most. They sent somebody that he would connect with. And I think, honestly, if they hadn't sent Bo Greitz, this would have just ended in a complete bloodbath.
More so than it already was.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
So he tells the marshals about Vicky Weaver, and I mean, does that change the dynamics of the situation? I mean, they already killed a child, and then now we killed wife too.
Well, the marshals were kind of put in a shitty position when, allegedly at least, Sammy opened fire on them. As far as the justice system goes, could be justified, but
I'm not disagreeing with that, but it's just messy. I'm just saying it got more messy with the wife.
Absolutely. Well, not only did it get more messy, I think that's where it really became criminal on the part of the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
Because the rules of engagement were not standard. They were set to a higher standard for this case for, since a marshal was killed. It went beyond messy when Vicky was killed, because a hostage rescue sniper for the FBI should be able to realize, you shouldn't shoot at somebody right in front of a door, and God knows what's right behind that door. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm more trying to figure out, like, how did this come to an end? Did he come out with Bo Greitz and say, like, okay, I'm done now?
So, first of all, Kevin Harris, who was wounded, asked Weaver if he could leave, because he was just in an incredible amount of pain, and obviously they didn't have any decent kind of medical care there. And these guys have been friends for a long time. Weaver kind of looked at Kevin as, like a son, kind of, Kevin was pretty young at the time of this. So they don't have any they don't have any kind of, medication at the compound to deal with this, or the trained professionals, obviously. So he leaves to get medical care. And I think that's kind of the first domino as far as like them coming out of the house. So Kevin Harris goes out and, gets arrested, gets the medical treatment, all that. And then the rest of the family is stuck in there for, I think, another day or so before Bogarts kind of talks Weaver into surrendering.
Whoa. So there's 2 dead people for multiple days.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like going through the stages of what happens after a body is dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. So does this guy negotiate a full surrender after that day or 2?
At some point, the Weavers agree to come out of the house because they're basically tired of it, and they can't take it anymore. I mean,
Right.
At some point, somebody's going to reach their breaking point, and I think Randy Weaver realized, if he went out guns a-blazing, he and likely his whole family would be killed.
Right.
So I think he makes the right decision in leaving the house. And
Wow.
yeah, the rest is history, man.
And I believe he sued the government, right?
Yeah, and he won in court, but all he received, I believe, was like $3 million. And
Which, you lost your whole family. Holy shit.
Yeah, damn, that sucks, dude. Like, he lost everything pretty much.
Well, he still
think
had 2
about-
kids, right?
Well, I mean, he still had 2 kids, but I mean, like, he lost like one of his sons and like his wife, right?
Yeah.
So that's just
man.
like that's just so heartbreaking. I don't know.
And his deep distrust for government probably never ran deeper than it does now.
No, I mean, I believe Randy's still alive.
Well, it's a bad deal all the way around. And it's interesting to talk about. It's one of those things that you're like, I mean, what could he have really done? Go to your fucking court date. That's what you can do. So there's a bunch of things where like the marshals or the government could have been like, well, he should have done this. And then he's like, well, they should have done this,
Mm-hmm.
It becomes like, where was the very first thing? That this just got way too far down the line. There was so many things that could have derailed this that didn't. And man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about. I mean, it's been really interesting, man. We're glad that you came on the show.
Yeah, for
This
sure.
was, really interesting. When we try to balance out, like have more lighthearted episodes and then have more serious episodes as well, and kind of have good balance.
Yeah.
And this was just one of the more thought-provoking ones about this really happened. This isn't like a theory. Like, we'll talk about conspiracy stuff about like, what if this this really fucking happened? This is a real thing. It was just fun to talk about. We really liked having you on the show. I'm more intrigued now about the Waco thing too.
Yeah, that'd be another good one to look into,
It'd
or
be a
like
good-
maybe do a podcast.
Yeah, a good follow-up episode to this at some point.
Yeah, if you're willing to come on, we'd love to have you back to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in that as well, and I've done probably more research on that than I have on this case.
Cool, man.
One of the things I kind of wanted to bring up, maybe to put in later, is that even members of the FBI, like the assistant director, wrote a memo about the incident. This was before they were aware that Vicky had been killed, but he wrote a memo that read something to consider. Number 1, charges against Weaver is bullshit. Number 2, nobody saw Weaver do any shooting. Number 3, Vicky has no charges against her. And number 4, in Weaver's defense, he ran down the hill to see what the dog was barking at. Some guy in camouflage shot his dog, and then they started shooting at him, killed his son. Harris did the shooting, so Weaver is in a strong legal position as far as, the criminal justice system goes.
Wow.
And, when you have the FBI assistant director saying stuff about that during the siege, it kind of shows you how nobody was on the same page about this. The hostage rescue team had basically shoot on sight orders, which a lot of SWAT team members at the time did not agree with at all. I think a lot of it had to do with politics. You know, the governor of Idaho put a state of emergency right? on. Yeah. So yeah. I think everybody had kind of a wrong idea. You know, all the officers going in there, they had the wrong idea of what the hell was going on, because this case had been switched between the Marshal Service, ATF, and the FBI. So kind of like when you play like fucking what is that game called, like Telephone? It's like, you know, you say one thing, the next person hears this, the next person hears that. I think a lot of the issue here was misinformation for the FBI and the Marshal Service in particular. They weren't really sharing information as they should have.
Yeah, I'll say. Holy shit.
So they came in here. They thought they were dealing with like a national terrorist. You know what I mean? And, you know, anybody who's, you know, working as an officer in that, you know, they're putting their life on the line trying to arrest this guy. You know, I'm not, you know, pointing fingers. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying, you know, it was messy.
For sure. For sure. It's, that's probably the perfect way to say it, is it was just messy. It's a crazy thing to think about. Yeah, make sure you're following the law out there. Don't sell sawed-off shotguns. Don't saw off your shotguns. Go to your court dates, stuff like that. If you want to go live out in the middle of nowhere, do that, but then follow the law so something like this doesn't happen. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on the show, man. It's been a pleasure. And, yeah, we hope that this was interesting.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Make sure you guys follow us, like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Maybe leave us a comment on what we should cover next.
Yeah, for sure. We're just trying to get started, so we see every comment at this point. Like some big YouTubers, they don't see anything. Some big podcasters, but we see every comment and we'll respond to them, and we really want to hear what you think. So it's been fun. Tell your friends, tell your fam. Keep tuning in. Keep coming back for your weekly trip to Purgatory.